Welcome into Yahoo Sports Radio, the Big E Sports Show. I am Elissa Campbell, and we pride ourselves on delivering the biggest and the very best in sports. And tonight we have secured a very special interview. He is a basketball Hall of Famer, 50 years in coaching, 37 in the NBA in various capacities. He was the head coach of the Houston Rockets, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Los Angeles Lakers. In fact, a little did you know, he was the NBA Coach of the Year in 1995 with the Lakers. He is currently the vice president with the Texas Legends. Of course, that is the Dallas Mavericks D-League affiliate. And Del Harris is a prolific author, and it's his first time on the show. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Elissa.
It's good to have you with us. Thank you.
Well, it's nice to be here. Thank you. The situation right now is pretty current, is that I was Kobe's first coach, and of course this is the Kobe week. I guess this is going to air soon.
Absolutely.
But in any event, it's going to be a kind of a remembered event in any event, Kobe's last year. So he's the last player still playing that I coached as a head coach. Now there's, of course, Dirk and a lot of Mavericks and such that are still playing my years here, but in Dallas. But in any event, it's it's kind of a sad thing to see Kobe ended here, but what a wonderful career he's had.
Well, you're right. The farewell tour begins, and I wanted to start off our conversation with some NBA news and notes before we relive some of your amazing memories, because what was your reaction when you heard the news? Here is someone that has had such a celebrated career, 20 years in the NBA, 5 NBA championships. He's going to finish third all-time in NBA scoring, and as you said, you coached him his rookie year. What was your reaction when you heard the news?
Well, it was coming, and I was hoping that he would do it this year, because he's just not himself after having the Achilles injury. He was 35, I guess, at the time that the Achilles went, and that's a devastating injury for someone that's past his 20s. And he was averaging at the time that he hurt that. It was in April, the end of the season back in 13, I guess it was. That month, he had been averaging 30 points and over 7 assists and over 7 rebounds. So he was on top of his game at that point. And it's sad to see him now, because he still has the same heart and the same mind, but he didn't have the same Achilles, and it makes it tough.
Were you surprised at the timing of the announcement? Because here we are in the month of December now, a fourth of the way through the NBA season. I'm surprised that he didn't say it or announce it at the start of the year.
I think, knowing how competitive he is, that he probably thought he would be able to do better than that Achilles is allowing him to do. Because, as I said, everything else is still in place in Kobe. But I think when he saw this road trip coming up and starting in Philadelphia, right, which is his home, that instead of being bombarded with, is this your last year, blah, 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 and having to kind of tap dance around it, I think that the timing probably was good. Ideally, it would have been at the beginning or the end, but I think he just got into this and found out that he wasn't going to be able to continue on.
Del, you've coached in the NBA for 37 years in various capacities. Have you ever been around a player with such an obsessive, competitive spirit? I think back to the 2008 Olympics, and Jason Kidd, his response to his teammate was that every day at practice it was like Game 7. He wanted to prove that he was the best player in the world.
Yes, I would say that he represents a 10 on that scale, along with Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, and a few others. But on the other hand, I have been associated with some really strong people as well. And right here in Dallas, Dirk is right up there. I mean, it's hard to say that anybody has done any more in terms of work ethic than Dirk. And then Steve Nash that we had here and that I coached with when he was 20 years old himself with the national team of Canada for the World Championships in Toronto in '94, and Sidney Moncrief that played for me, Moses Malone. I've been fortunate enough to have coached with 5 of the top 9 scorers in the history of the game at this particular point. And to be that good, you have to have that work ethic. You can't be good enough talent-wise to do those things if you don't have the work ethic. So my hat's off to him, but also to, and I coach Magic Johnson. You know, right. So he's not one of those scorers because his game was, you know, assists as well as scoring when he needed to, but and he had that. So.
You know, we think of Michael Jordan, the all-time greatest. Where do you see Kobe Bryant now as he gets ready to finish out and close that door? Is he the closest to Michael Jordan in your mind?
Well, there are a number that are right behind Michael, but I'd have to say that Michael still reigns as #1. And beyond that, I would put some of the guys that I've noted here as, and of course Oscar and Jerry West and Kareem and Wilt, and it's just once you get past Michael, the rest are just, Larry Bird, did I mention him?
Oh,
so
yeah. Absolutely. What was that first impression like when you had an opportunity, as you said, you know, to coach him that rookie season? I mean, did you have the belief that he would one day become one of the all-time greats? I mean, he's really special, and here you were, his first coach in the NBA, and he was so tender in age, only 18 years old and right out of high school.
And just barely 18, actually, and only weighed about 75 pounds. And he was so competitive at that point and focused that it was obvious to see that he was going to be a great player. But I don't think anybody could tell at age 18 or 19 any more than they could with Michael Jordan, who wasn't drafted first, and Kobe wasn't either, that they would become what they would be. I mean, it's, you just don't know that when you talk about that kind of greatness. Surely people will say, oh, I knew it. Well, fine, but that's not been my experience. I've not been that good at evaluating talent, but I knew he was going to be a great one.
Where do you think that competitive spirit came from Kobe? You have to wonder the influence of his father, Joe Jelly Bean Bryant.
Well, I coached Jelly Bean also, and Jelly was not as competitive and didn't have quite the work ethic that Kobe did. Jelly, as his nickname might indicate, he was more like Shaq, you know. He loved playing, but he also loved life, and and he's a good guy. I'm not trying to knock him. I know he doesn't think that he's as good as Kobe, but Kobe, I'd have to say, the parents helped, no doubt, obviously, but I think as much as anything, he's, if you can be self-made, he's that, you know, as close as you can be to it.
So where does the Lakers organization go from here? What's the prescription to get these guys to being back to an elite team? I mean, and rebuilding this roster and to be able to move forward and getting accustomed to those winning ways? Well,
it's going to take a lot to do that at this point because they don't have very many pieces in place now that he's going to be gone. They have 3 young kids that are not 20, 19, 20, 22 that look like they're going to be good players, very good players perhaps, but it's going to take a lot of luck and a lot of money, they will have the money, but money doesn't play. You can always say, oh, we've got all this salary cap space, but salary cap space doesn't score, it doesn't rebound. So they have a huge job cut out for them. Having said that, that was the position they were in when I started with them in 1994. They had made their first trip to the lottery the year before and had 2 or 3 years of mediocrity subsequent to the announcement by Magic that he could not play anymore. And so we had a very young team, and we were fortunate that in that first year they came together. We drafted Eddie Jones, number 6, I believe it was, in the first round, and we made a nice trade for Cedric Ceballos. And then we had Nick Van Exel, who's our coach right now at the Legends, and Vlade Divac, Eldon Campbell, and we had a good veteran in Sam Bowie, and we really just took off, and that's how I made Coach of the Year that particular year. We won 48 games and went to the second round, and the next year won 53. The next year we got Kobe and Shaq and won 56, even though Kobe didn't have much of a year that first year. He got injured playing pickup ball at Venice Beach during training camp, just before it started. Missed training camp, did not get any preseason games, and his first ever game was the 4th, 5th, 6th game of the season. And Shaq that year missed 31 games with abdominal injury, and we still won 56. So then the next year 61, and that was my last full year to coach the team. But it was, a quick turnaround at that point. But now I think it's going to be harder for them, because what I had was a nice solid nucleus of young guys, lots of guys, good guys, and with and a couple of veterans in Vlade and Sam Bowie that I think helped us, and Sedale Threet that helped us.
Well, you mentioned Nick Van Exel, of course, the head coach of the Texas Legends. So let's transition and talk about the Texas Legends. Obviously, you know exactly what it takes to rebuild rosters. I'd love for you to share with our viewers, also our listeners tonight, the importance of the Development League and how critical that is and a stepping stone for players to achieve their ultimate goal and to play in the NBA.
Well, it's really a vital piece of the NBA program now. I think people are becoming more aware that almost 40% of the current NBA players have played some minutes in the Development League. And we've sent a number of players up over the last 6 years.
How many have you sent up?
I think 13, something like that, have gone up either to the NBA or to the highest levels in Europe. But then we've had others of the Mavericks come and play a few games or a whole year to develop. And the future of the NBA Development League is intact. I mean, teams are buying the franchises now. They were owned mostly by individuals, entrepreneurs, but now the teams are owning them and really utilizing the teams to do just what it says, develop their players.